we're not doing a great job of engaging, selling commodities. We make it tough. Now Trudeau wants to, cap emissions on oil and gas. I mean, the only thing that's driving our economy right now is oil and gas. So we see real estate slow down, we see consumerism slow down, we see immigration slow down. That's what was driving our economy.
For many years, Canada and the US were pretty much in lockstep. We trended each other in many, many different things. But my gosh, this business investment per capita chart just shows this massive divergence in like 2015. It's very different now than it used to be from this perspective.
I think 2025 is going to be a very, very difficult year. The great divide is definitely happening.
Let's talk about the economy, Patrick, real quick. We have two more big things we want to cover. The economy, we talked about Stephen Poloz and how he's already said, listen, we're not in a vibe session. We are in a recession, according to the former Bank of Canada. Now, the actual stats right now is the GDP is at 1%. I mean, we are barely treading water here, and we are darn close to neutral. So it feels like a recession, but technically it's not a recession yet. And let me tell you, the government's going to play on that as long as they can.
Listen, I'm going to say what I've said so many times, it doesn't matter. I'll stay with exactly what I've said before. Canada lacks productivity. Even this 1% GDP growth is driven by government and government jobs, consumerism. We've lost all productivity, and ultimately that's what's going to bite us. And when we look into 2025, I'm on the same page as Poloz. I mean, all he did was really state out loud what we've talked about many times, which is we see rising unemployment, we see too much immigration, we see consumerism and real estate driving the economy instead of productivity such as manufacturing and real productive type jobs. And I use manufacturing as an example. Our export, U.S. is what's going to eat us our lunch, is that we export more than we import. They're subsidizing us in Trump's words, right? We do a lot of business with the U.S., and it's just not a fair relationship is how they're looking at it. So ultimately, when we go back to talking about the economy, we're not doing a great job of engaging, selling commodities. We make it tough. Now Trudeau wants to, cap emissions on oil and gas. I mean, the only thing that's driving our economy right now is oil and gas. And I know that's a big statement, but in general, that's just the reality of what's going on. So we see real estate slow down, we see consumerism slow down, we see immigration slow down. That's what was driving our economy. Now we're losing real estate, we're losing immigration, and ultimately less people buying because things have gotten expensive. They're nervous. There's actual insolvencies with business have gone up. There's just a lot of uncertainty. So people aren't spending money.
I was just going to bring that up. Insolvencies definitely have ticked up. You can see it here in this chart. Insolvencies, bankruptcy, consumer proposals, all kind of on the rise in a pretty steep. Some of them in a pretty steep way. And you also see this in the household debt as well, Patrick. Which is, and I find it quite fascinating how much we have. For many years, Canada and the US were pretty much in lockstep. We trended each other in many, many different things. But my gosh, since if you look at this particular chart, this business investment per capita chart just shows this massive divergence in like 2015. And it's very different now than it used to be from this perspective.
And that's just the reality of what we're facing. So do I see big headwinds ahead? 100%. I think 2025 is going to be a very, very difficult year. The great divide is definitely happening in terms of, a lot of people go, well,
no, I'm not at the effect of the economy. The economy's fine.
Okay, well, you're that part of the economy, the service sector and the lower income. And I don't mean poverty type income. I'm suggesting households that have $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year household incomes are struggling, and especially if they got kids. So the point of it is that we're going to see the great divide get even greater. That kind of middle class is going to get split. Those who have done well will continue to do well because they own assets. This goes back to what we've talked about many times. There's the phrase that everybody is familiar with, the rich get richer. And why is that? Well, primarily because they own assets, JG. And whether those assets are, things that we talk about, precious metals or equities or Bitcoin. That's the thing right now, which is happening. We've talked about that many times. But ultimately, real estate. The rich get richer because they own assets. And so for anybody who's looking at this and going, how do I get ahead? Listen, it's a grind, but you have to get assets. And there's lots of ways to do that. We talk about that a lot. But ultimately, that's what's happening right now.
Now, one of the things that's happened, Patrick, recently is rents. Rents have declined in October, first time in I think 3 years, if I remember right, which is quite something because rents have not been declining, but it's the first time in 3 years. And we've actually talked about this. Here, the stats are coming out, Patrick. But you and I actually talked about this. As it was happening, I was reporting that rents were a little bit soft in October. By the way, that didn't continue. They have rebounded, at least in my particular markets. But we are seeing that rents are definitely, as you can see in this graph, since May, the growth has slowed and slowed and slowed to the point of a decline, and now kind of stabilized, if you will, from my perspective.
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. When we look at what's happening in the condo market in our two major centers, that being Toronto and Vancouver, that's going to skew the numbers when you look at a Canadian average rent. 100% is going to skew the numbers. So are they getting soft? Yes. But is that right across all property types and right across the board? No.
So if you like these episodes and you want to learn more about what's going on with real estate in Canada, investing in real estate, and understanding how to invest in real estate the right way, head on down to the descriptions below, follow those links.